What if the biggest obstacle to your company's growth isn't the market, your competitors, or even your product? What if it's the way you're managing money and strategy? Welcome to Industry Ignited, the podcast where we spotlight leaders who are rethinking how business gets done. I'm your host, Dr. Leeanne Aguilar, and today I'm joined by Thomas Gilman, founder of Driving Business Growth. With decades of leadership experience at BP, Scully Mitchell, and now as a trusted advisor to CEOs, he's made a career of guiding organizations from where they are to where they want to be. Thomas, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks. It's good to be here.
I'm looking forward to our conversation. You've had a long career across engineering, auditing, and corporate leadership at BP before launching Driving Business Growth. What motivated you to pivot from global corporations to helping CEOs one-on-one?
Yeah, after 40 years of being a chemical engineer, MBA, getting into worldwide business advising, I got home, and I said, oh no, I don't golf and I don't fish and my wife is still working. I better get off the couch. And I thought, you know what, let's go out and talk to businesses and see if we can help with all this knowledge that I've gained. And so that's what I started to do 4 years ago. And it's been really cool because I meet a lot of CEOs and owners of businesses and I share what I know. And I've never had one yet say, yeah, I knew all that. They always say, oh my gosh, I did not know that about some of the topics that we'll talk about today. And so it's always fun to share the information. It's not really complicated. It's just not well known. So, yeah.
Right. Yeah. And as leaders, I at least for myself, speaking for myself, I'm always hungry to learn and grow. And everything changes so quickly, whether it's technology or the economy or just how things are done, processes and procedures, expectations. There's always something new to learn and grow from. So that's great that you're stepping into that space to guide those who are wanting to learn more. Yeah. Looking back, what experiences or roles most shaped your ability to quickly understand a business and identify its growth levers?
Yeah, the combination of being an engineer and having problem-solving skills drilled into you, and then going to MBA school and have case studies thrown at you, not even knowing what the question is, those two ways of thinking, problem-solving and case study adaptation, allow me to kind of look at whatever they're doing and trying to figure out what is the question to ask, and then what is the solution that would help them the quickest. And so, yeah, I love talking to folks. Never know where it's going to go, and always love to either help them myself or introduce them to somebody else that can help them.
Yeah. And you've worn a lot of hats, like engineer, auditor, strategist, and now consultant. How has that cross-functional background given you an edge in advising leaders?
Yeah, so I think it helps me speak their language. So I'm not, overly impressed with a very high-level person. And I think they really appreciate that. I'm not sucking up to them. I'm just talking to them as a colleague, trying to honestly understand, listen intently, and figure out what is a plan of attack to help them. And so the other thing is I'm not trying to close business. I'm not selling them. And I think they really appreciate that because my whole business model is to first establish a business relationship, provide them some business value, and then see where it goes. And I never know where it's going to go. There's several directions. But the main thing is to establish that rapport and help them with any problems that they identify themselves, and then talk about things that may be holding them back or problems they may be running into in the very near future that we can avoid with some of what I call Wall Street techniques for Main Street business.
Yeah. So it's really just being a listener. And I think sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, right? It's like you're in the business, you're in there day to day. So it's hard to be objective because you're in the middle of all of it. So having that outside perspective, especially with someone like you who has like that diverse skill set and background, you're able to see things from multiple angles. and
Yeah.
advise. Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun too. It's kind of when you're talking to somebody, they're going to have a wall up, but you've just met them, for instance. And what we try to
Yeah.
do is, you know, start to talk about how we can help them and, not try to sell them, but honestly, okay, here are some things that I think you should do. And once they realize that we're genuinely trying to establish a business relationship, then they start to open up a little bit. And that's when we can get to what are the deeper issues that would really help their business.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I think that's important, especially when it comes to business. You're talking about and dealing with a lot of sensitive information or
Mhm.
confidential information, and they want to know that uh, they could be that they're safe, basically talking to you and sharing with you, and so that foundation of trust
Mhm.
is super critical. Yeah.
Mhm.
What made you realize you wanted to help businesses grow, not just through systems and numbers, but by mentoring their leaders as well?
Yeah, I think it's, it has a lot to do with the person that I am is just, okay, how can I help? I'm a problem solver, in my family life, in my church life. And it's like, let's look at this from, step back a little bit, assess it, and then see how we can move forward. Do the quick things first, and then tackle the hard things in a very methodical way that is going to be successful. So I love that problem solving aspect to it. And I also like to, meet people and help them, however I can.
Yeah. And when you first sit down with the CEO, what signs tells you that a business is strong or maybe even headed for trouble?
Yeah, yeah. So it's a very interesting thing. I meet them where they are. So whether they are struggling to meet payroll, and I have some things that we can do very quickly to try to get them over that hump, or whether they've had a lot of great self-funded years and just want to grow to the next level, I have techniques and through to not only fix what might be happening right now, but also avoid something that they're heading toward. So a lot of folks, they've done the same thing and been successful, but as they grow, they're going to hit other barriers that they don't see yet. And then I talk them through, okay, here's what's going to happen, and make sure that their relationship with their bank or their bankability as a corporation or a company is ready to take them to the next level. So I love working that out, especially when I can kind of see it coming and they don't see it yet. But the
Mm,
concepts that I share with them are very easy to grasp, and they're very, CEOs are sharp. They just have not been informed of these things that will help them in an area that they may not see. And so it's really cool to share that, help them, and maybe change the way their projection of how their company is going to do. It's very satisfying, you know.
yeah, right, exactly. So it just helps them, I guess, get clarity around what their goals are and really identify some of the things that are holding them back.
Yeah, holding them back or a wall that they're going to run into. Unless we address it now, they're going to hit a barrier. And so let's
Okay.
remove that barrier now, and then you can grow to your heart's content because you've got access to more funding, or you've got more robust growth model implemented
Mm-hmm.
ahead of time rather than try to implement it as you go. It's why not implement these things before you get there?
Beforehand, right. So
Yeah.
you can prepare yourself instead of scramble and always
Yeah, and maybe have to
responding and
so
reacting.
yeah, and we're trying to make a situation where they don't have to slow down. Oh, okay, let's take a little breather while we get this together. Well, if you're able to do that 6 months before, you sail right on through that growth bump.
Right.
So yeah,
That makes
I
sense.
love doing that. And so, they tend to be very thankful. And that's where my business model in the long term comes. So there are many things that I can do that I do charge for, but a lot of the information that I set them up with for success, I just provide as a conversational help to them. because my whole business model is longer term than just, okay, pay me $3,000 and I'll tell you how to do this. That's not what I do. I say, hey, here's a whole strategy of growth. And then once they trust me and see that it works, then they'll say, okay, what else can you help me with? And then we
Yeah.
might get into like a paid arrangement. But I'm not trying to do that as I meet them and build trust. And I love to see that success early on, because it's going to allow them to grow to where they're dreaming to be.
Yeah. So you're really providing value at the beginning
Yeah, yeah.
while you're establishing a
I
relationship.
provide a whole bunch of value before I even expect any revenue coming back.
Yeah. Now, many leaders focus on that top line revenue. What do
Hmm.
you say to shift their mindset towards profitability, financial resilience, and credit strength?
Right. So there are so many people out there that can help with sales or marketing or top line revenue enhancement, right? That is not my game. So I'm more externally focused with regard to how can you set up, you know, superior business credit arrangements, banking arrangements, online compliance that allows you to look stellar when people are doing due diligence on you. And then how can we make sure that the expenses that you have as a normal business expense are as low as they can be. And so part of my consulting with Schooley Mitchell is to provide a free benchmarking of, okay, what are you spending versus what is the best rate across the country? And we provide that very quickly, very little, so it doesn't take them much time in the organization to get the information together for us. But that is not my initial, that is as it fits with the overall growth plan. So that's just
Hmm.
one tool in my toolbox. What I'm really doing is trying to figure out, okay, what should we attack first? And it might be business expenses. That's always, a good thing to make sure you're not paying more than you should.
Right. Being profitable is not just about revenue, it's about expenses too.
Yeah.
So trimming the fat per se, trimming what's not needed.
Yeah, but the other thing about it is I have a lot of people that I work with that are great at enhancing revenue or sales or, maybe branding, that kind of thing. And so I love introducing companies to people like yourself that can help with the top line or the image.
Yeah.
Love introducing those CEOs, because when I'm providing them business value, I'm not only thinking of myself, I'm thinking of, okay, in the whole world, what could this company use best? And a lot of
Hmm.
times, these partners that I work with are the perfect solution to, something that is not optimized for that business.
Yeah. But first, really identifying what those things even are
Yeah,
and, where
exactly.
they need
Looking at it
help.
from a step
Yeah.
back, fresh eyes on the problem.
Yeah.
CEOs know a lot of the internals of their business, and
Hmm.
sometimes they're very good understanding their industry, but they're doing it from the inside. And so it's really good to take a step back and say, okay, looking at you from the outside, what does your company look like? And so one of the things I provide is a free business scan that, from the internet's perspective, looks in on their business and compiles all the publicly available information, and then reports very concisely what looks good and then what is maybe not as great as they would want it to be. And we talk about how easy that is to fix. It's often, just 5 minutes to get it fixed. But unless you look in on yourself, you don't really know that that's out there waiting for somebody to wonder about you, or maybe it's even a
Yeah.
fraud. It might be a fraud flag for a bank or some other partner. So it's like, let's take that business scan for free. It's very quick and easy to do. And let's talk about how you look from the internet's perspective. That's part of what I do when I look at a business.
Okay. So tell me a little bit more about how you take that fresh outside look for a company. You mentioned the credit, um, looking into the credit. What
Yeah,
else do you examine to
right.
uncover those hidden opportunities?
Yeah, when we look in on a company and compile their publicly available information, there's 108 pieces of publicly available information on any registered business. And so we've got a really quick and easy way to compile all that, show it, and talk through it. And in the areas of pre-qualified funding. So it algorithmically says, okay, if you went out and tried to get funding for this growth you're trying to do, here's about what you could get, and here's the sources that would be okay with you. And it's usually not sufficient for what they're trying to do. And we talk about, okay, let's take you from where you are to become bankable so that you have
Uh-huh.
access to better funding at better terms. So that's one conversation. Another conversation is, what's your online compliance look like? For instance, the easiest one to understand. So if your IRS address and your website address don't match, that is a fraud flag. You don't want anybody thinking you're doing money laundering, do you? Well,
Right.
why not fix it? It takes, fix one or the other. They just need to match, right? That's online compliance. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Most businesses that I scan um, don't do all that great, and it's great to coach them on how to get great, because when people look in on you for due diligence, or if you're a nonprofit and you are writing grants, when that grant committee looks in on you, you want to look stellar. You want every I dotted and every T crossed. Well, let's make you have that by fixing anything that this scan detects. Another
Yeah.
area is business credit. So we can talk about that at length. Most people are not even playing the business credit game, and we coach them how to do that very easily. And then banking behaviors. Are you working with your bank, and is your bank working with you? And we talk about, how to make sure that relationship is optimal.
Now, how do you help CEOs move past the emotional side of business, like fear of debt, resistance to change, or reluctance to let go of old practices?
Yeah, so I'm a very here's the information, take it as you would like. I'm not demanding that they do these things. I'm just giving them techniques. And so I find that as long as you're not coaching them in a way that makes them think that you know more about their business than they do, they're very open to understanding how the game is played. So they're in the middle of playing the business game. There's a lot of things out there. And when they hear something that they didn't know before, you can see the wheels churning. Okay, how do I implement this and make it part of something that we become really good at? And so they're very, in general, very appreciative of knowing these Wall Street techniques for Main Street businesses. But I do not say, hey, you need to do this. That's not, I'm more collaborative than that.
Yeah, right. Now, access to capital is often the make or break factor for growth. What
Mhm.
mistakes do businesses make when approaching funding, and how do you help them prepare?
Right. So algorithmically, I have a feel for about what area they're in. So let's say they're trying to build, I have clients like this. They're trying to buy a new building because they need more space for manufacturing. And maybe they need $2 to $6 million. And we look at it and they say, well, you could easily get 750,000, but you're going to struggle to get somebody to give you that much money unless the terms are just atrocious. And so we say, okay, well, let's start figuring out how to build your business credit, which will allow banks to have more confidence in you that you'll be able to repay a larger funding aspect and get better terms. And we can turn that around in 4 months. So we can take you from having access to under $1 million to having access to much, 5 million or more, just by addressing some things that take about 4 months to come to conclusion. And so
Okay, wow.
the reason it takes 4 months is some of the things have to be in place for 90 days, and that's 3 months, right? So
Yeah.
3 of those 4 months is kind of required for things to actually engage. And then the other month is making sure that you've got everything in place. But that's the whole coaching, is to become bankable. And by that
Yeah.
term, I mean access to better funding at better terms.
Right.
The banks love you. When a banker wants to loan you money and they are
Hmm.
restricted by what their back office or underwriters requirements are. So one of the coaching things that we do is, do you understand the underwriting requirements of your bank that you're, using? And hardly anybody does because they haven't really got into the funding thing yet. That's kind of a new part of their growth strategy. And I say, yeah, go in, try to find out as much as you can about what they're going to require for you to get $5 million for this new building. And
Right.
so it's an easy conversation because they want to loan you the money as long as you qualify. Well, let's say they go into that bank and they're talking about the requirements and it's like, ooh, they are not very flexible and I don't know if I can get there. I'm like, well, there is maybe a community bank or a regional bank that will work with you. And I
Yeah.
get so
I
many
was
people
just going
that,
to say that, right? Creating a relationship at a local bank
yeah,
oftentimes
there's
is,
there's so
yeah,
many people, businesses, and they see a lot of nationwide advertising for Bank of America or some of these other big banks. And those banks are not flexible on the commercial loan structure. They are really good about loaning to large companies, but in
right.
the world that I live, which are companies trying to grow, they're not very flexible about people that are um, having their first foray into funding growth. And so I say, yeah, figure out how your current bank does it. Go down the street, talk to another one. I'll bet you'll have a different story. And then you can determine which person you want to work with and be
Yeah.
more successful.
I've
So that's
definitely
just
found
one.
that to be
That's one
true.
of the
Yeah.
ways we can head off them disappointed. So let's say they waited, didn't talk to their banker, and then walked in and needed $5 million, and they said, I can't do that. Now what? Well, we have just backed that up, several months so that they didn't run into that restriction.
Yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
that's the kind of thing we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond raising funds, where do you see the biggest untapped areas for boosting profits quickly?
Yeah. So in the cash flow area, if you look at how much you're spending for normal business expenses, we average lowering that by 28%. So if your P&L looks like 30% of what you do is expenses and you lower that by 30%, then you have 9% top line revenue profits improvement with no additional expenditure. So it's like a very low risk way to include profitability very quickly. So that's
Yeah.
one area that we're happy to take a free look, and there's no risk because if we don't find anything, there's no expense. You don't have to pay us. We split savings with you. If we find them, we implement the savings for you, and then for 3 years we'll split those with you, and then they're all yours after that. So it's a very cool model that is low risk, zero risk, but also can be very lucrative for the business.
You've described Wall Street techniques simplified for Main Street. Can you give an example of a tool or strategy you've adapted that creates immediate impact for small to medium sized businesses?
Sure, yeah. So business credit, people think of personal credit, but only for a business, and that's not what it is. So there's a personal credit bureau that we're all used to our FICO score. Hopefully it's above 800. It might be 760. People that have had struggles might be in the 550s, but that is really affecting your ability to borrow on a personal basis. Business credit bureaus are totally separate, do not talk to the personal credit bureaus. So they are not automatically signed up for. So first, you got to register for them, and that is Dun & Bradstreet, Experian Business, Equifax Business, and Credit Safe. And so we have our clients sign up for all four. That's, the first thing is to be in their system. The second thing is to funnel your normal business expenses through methods that report to those business credit bureaus, because only 6% of people report to those business credit bureaus. So you got to know which ones to pick. This is my favorite example. American Express Business and Chase Ink card, which reports to the business credit bureaus. A lot of people
Which
think
one?
American, yeah, a
Okay.
lot of people think American Express Business does. It does not. So any
Huh.
business expenses you put through American Express Business, you're not getting business credit for that.
Okay.
Chasing, yeah, it reports to a couple of them, but not all four. So our method is let's open some trade lines, which includes credit cards, vendor cards, other credit methods that in total funnel all your business expenses to all four business credit bureaus. And so we had one client in the transportation business that their recommended business credit amount was $1,000. And we thought, oh my gosh, they are not playing the game. In 10 months, their recommended credit amount was $750,000 just by funneling their
Wow.
normal expenses. Yeah, it's not. The other thing about business credit is it's not like personal credit in that the more you use, the more you get dinged. It's the opposite. As long as you pay on time, the more business credit you use and pay on time,
Uh-huh.
the more they give you. And that's how you can start to snowball that up. So if you could get 90 days same as cash on 750,000, that's a different world for the business than if you had to pay interest on anything you borrowed. So we try to get people to use that Wall Street technique. The other thing about it is business credit does not have to be in your personal name. It can be on your EIN of your business. And to the
Hmm.
extent possible, we try to separate the personal finances from the business finances. That's another place where, for instance, real estate investors, we love telling them about this technique to where they don't have to put their own money with their own signature against some of their real estate investments following these techniques. So
Oh,
that's kind of a
okay.
business, a Wall Street technique for Main Street business people.
Yeah. And partnerships and credit enhancement are part of your toolkit. How do you know when a company is truly ready to scale and when it needs to stabilize first?
Right. So it's kind of when you look at the metrics of, kind of what their turnover, revenue generation is, and profitability, you can see that they are ready to grow, that they've been, for instance, a company that has had a couple of years of self-funded growth, they can leverage their success to grow much larger, much quicker than they think they can. So they may be plodding along, growing, organically, as they say. There is a way to really accelerate that through the techniques that we talk about. And it's just a
Uh-huh.
matter of do they want, are they willing to grow that quickly, that large, or are they okay where they are? So some owners, CEOs, they want to grow, but they don't want to get big fast. Other owners, CEOs, and especially if they're looking to exit, they could really take advantage of this accelerated growth so that their valuation when they are ready to exit is another tier above where they are currently. And so just kind of what do they want to do, and does their balance sheet say that they're ready to grow? Now, if they're struggling, let's say that their personal credit rating got hit and they don't have access to funding, then we can tell them ahead of time, until you become more bankable, you're going to be frustrated if you try to grow right now. And so we will work with them while they're at that lower level to get ready to grow. But yeah, you can see it from, their financials and also, from their top line revenue, kind of, are they
Okay.
ready or do they need to solidify first?
Right. That makes sense. What would you say the most common blind spot is for CEOs who are ambitious but struggling to
Mhm.
break through that next level?
Yeah, cash flow portrayal. So basically, they'll start growing and they don't realize that they're going to run out of money. And unless they have like a line of credit or some access to funding, they can actually
Hmm.
go out of business. That's one of the main reasons that successful-ish companies go out of business is they don't plan ahead on cash needs in the middle of that growth. So it's sad. I get frantic calls of people that need a large amount of money within a week. And I'm like, I will try to help you, but wow, I wish I'd have known you, months ago.
Right.
We could have avoided
Yeah.
this little glitch. But yeah, that's one of the main reasons companies go out of business is that little, I don't know, it's like a dead spot in their vision. It's like, okay, I'm gonna buy all these trucks to have so many more routes, but they don't realize that they don't get paid for 3 months until, and so in that lag between when they put money out and when they are getting paid themselves, they got to bridge that. And if they don't have enough
Right.
funds, then game over, they're going to
Yeah.
go bankruptcy or something severe. And it's so sad because it didn't have to happen. You know?
Right. No, it's managing that cash flow. Right. And if you take on a bunch of additional expenses and don't have the cash flow that is flowing to match the expenses,
Right.
then you find
So
yourself in
we
hot
do
water.
we do two things. We work with a lot of folks that will look at their cash flow projections, fractal CFOs, CPAs, other people that are put those numbers clearly in front of them. But then we also work at making them bankable so that they can get access to funds to bridge that dead spot in their cash flow.
Right.
So, yeah.
And you've mentored engineers and executives for decades. What advice do you give leaders about balancing financial discipline with bold vision?
Yeah, so don't get cocky. I think the main thing is they got to where they are by being really good at what they do, but they're moving out of a comfort zone where it's all history or experience. And now they're kind of getting into a spot where they don't have that, but they may feel like they know because they kind of know the buzzwords. And so just being humble, I guess that's the main thing is if you're humble and, seek out expertise, then you can't go wrong. That's my main advice
Humility.
to
Yeah.
those that are on the cusp of growth.
Yeah. Right. I guess that would, I mean, my next question is specifically that. If you could give that piece of advice to every CEO listening who wants to move from surviving to thriving, what would it be? So beyond humility, is there anything else that you would advise?
Yeah, there's a lot of people willing to help, and there's AI out there. I would not over rely on that because I've put stuff in AI and it has not been correct. And I'd hate them to think that that is the way to get answers in this world because it is algorithmic and everybody's business is different. So I would say seek out an expert in addition to what you're looking up on AI.
Yeah, exactly. Because you can't replace that experience. I mean, with actual, I mean, AI is, taking basically, it's a sum of human experiences from its database,
Yeah,
and
when you ask AI
but
a question, it doesn't come back with 10 questions to make sure that it's understanding this answer that it gave you. So when you're
right, it
talking
doesn't
to an
have the
expert,
well of experience.
yeah, when you're talking to an expert, they will ask you the questions to clarify, to make sure that the answer they give is correct. Whereas AI will answer generally the question that you've asked, but not press it to further understand. And so maybe AI will get there one day and that'll be awesome. But I think right now, I worry about people that over rely on that when they're making business decisions. Could
Right.
be the other thing is, ask a lot of people, or go to a lot of, I don't know, industry groups and kind of see how other people have done it. Try to have a mentor, even if you're very experienced. It's always good to bounce ideas over, against somebody that's trusted. So yeah, those kind of things that make business fun, those conversations are great to have. And when things are successful, it's very fulfilling for the CEO to say, you know what? Yeah, we took this risk and look how we came out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, growth without, I mean, there's always risk in business, but
Right.
taking strategic risk and, like you said, there are proven methods for reducing certain kinds of risk, like
Yeah.
having additional cash or credit for cash flow, that
Yeah,
can help.
exactly.
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
Thomas, thank you for sharing your insights and experiences
sure.
with us today. For CEOs who want to connect with you and learn more about driving business growth, how can they reach you?
Yeah, I have a website. I'm on LinkedIn. Probably LinkedIn is the easiest. Just look me up there, and you can actually book an appointment right from LinkedIn. But I'd love to talk to people. It's a quick conversation, and always fun to learn about somebody's business and try to help them.
All right. Well, thank you for that. For those listening, make sure to follow and subscribe to Industry Ignited so you don't miss any future conversations with leaders who are building stronger, smarter businesses. Until next time, stay bold, stay curious, and keep igniting industry.